Happy Wednesday. Hi, I'm Misha, aka Pieces of Meesh, and welcome back to another episode of the Pieces of Meesh podcast. So today's episode is going to be much like last week's episode. I'm just going to say what's on my mind and move through topics and whatever, just let it flow because like I said, I'm having a hard time sitting down and coming up with actual episodes or things I want to talk about because it feels too rehearsed. It doesn't feel natural. So I want this to feel as natural. I want this to feel natural. So in order for me to do that, I have to just let it flow. You know, these are my Instagram stories in a YouTube form. And I have my dad's composition book, one of his composition books. What I thought I would do for this episode is to just randomly open it up to a page and read the first thing I see, and maybe something will flow from that. So let's go. All right, let's see. Maybe we'll go this page. And it's blank. All right, there's a page before that though. Oh, these are my notes I put in here. All right, let's go here. Okay. Ooh, this is going to be good. Okay, he has serve. To act as a servant, to render assistance, be of use, help, to contribute to, promote, to serve a cause. If you want authority and leadership, learn to serve and stop trying to push yourself to the top. With leadership comes hardship. Oh, is that fire? With leadership comes hardship. Let's talk about it. Okay. With leadership comes hardship. I can say that I understand that completely, and I have experiences in that because I remember being in grad school and we had to write a paper about our leadership styles. And I wrote about being a servant leader. And the focus of that paper was my dad. I talked about my dad being a servant leader. And the examples she gave us of servant leaders were like Martin Luther King Jr. And I'm not saying my dad was Martin Luther King Jr., but my dad was a servant leader. The way he led was for the people. And it makes me specifically think about him being a pastor. And I'm not even gonna hold y'all. Sometimes I get offended when people talk about the church and Christianity, specifically pastors, in a way that's always a negative assumption because that's not the type of man my dad was. You know, he wasn't one of those, oh, put your money in the offering so I can go out and buy this and that and that. Never that. Because I remember growing up, there were times when offering was not enough to pay the church's bills. So my dad had to come out of his own pocket. You know what I mean? So he did what he did. He was a pastor, not for the clout, not for the attention, not for the money, because clearly there wasn't no money in it. Not for him. He was in it because he truly loved to serve. He loved to serve God, and he loved to serve the people. And he did so many good things for people. And I can see as I'm growing up, because my dad was a Cancer. He was a Cancer, like a Cancer zodiac sign. And when I tell you that man was emotional, and my Jupiter is in Cancer, and it's like one of my least favorite zodiac placements because it makes me care. It makes me care a lot, and it makes me care more than I would like to care. And I'm just being very honest. And being a very caring person, I had an example of what care looks like when it came to my dad. And he had it, I'm not going to say he wasn't a saint, but he had his faults, you know. But growing up is realizing that he lived his life what he thought his faith wanted him to live. So as far as like his associations with people, where he went, you know, the type of things he preached on, he thought he was living according to God's word. And that's not anything I'm here to criticize or talk about right now. But thinking about leadership coming with hardship, there's so many examples that I can see from his life, but even with my own life. And I can reflect on so many things. And I want to just make a disclaimer that when I share certain stories It's not to talk down upon people, or it's not to bash people, but it's truly my experience. And at the end of the day, I never, ever, 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 ever see myself as a victim. I don't see myself as a victim in any situations, because most things I experienced or participated in, I knew what was going on, but I wanted to see how far people would go with their disrespect. One, and that's honest. I was very aware, but also two, I carried the mindset a lot that it would never happen to me. Things would never happen to me if I just played along. You know, if I was kind, this person would never do that to me. If I listened, this person would never do that to me. And that doesn't matter. That doesn't matter, because when you're in certain positions, people are going to challenge you. They're going to challenge you and push your boundaries to see how far they can go with you. And unfortunately, people just push my boundaries a little too much. But but going back to the subject, I think the hardest time where I ever experienced hardships in my leadership was probably when I was working in higher education. So, for those of you who don't know, I have a master's degree in student affairs and higher education. And I thought about putting it behind me, since people think I should go get another degree. Have another one, okay? Smart, actually. I just like to turn my brain off at times. You know, it's much easier to navigate the world when you're not thinking too much, or you're not trying to intellectualize every situation. You know, sometimes I just like to flow like a little bubble through the world with my brain completely turned off. But I found that I really can't do that. I really can't do that outside of my house. You know, I could do it at home with my mom, but I can't really do it in larger communities, because that gives people the assumption that I'm stupid. And never that, never been. I'm just silly. But thinking about when I worked in higher education and I was a hall director, and I don't know, I feel like anybody who works in higher education, especially in residence life, has some aspects of being a servant leader, because oftentimes it is a thankless job, and oftentimes it's one of those jobs where you're overworked and underpaid. And, you know, I worked in housing, so, you know, my apartment was paid for. I didn't have any bills. You know, I had a meal plan, which are all great perks of the job. But at the same time, you're living where you work. And when you live where you work, there's no separation between your work and your personal life. And oftentimes they tend to overlap, where you start to not have an identity outside of work. So, in my position of being a hall director and being a leader, I experienced so many hardships being a hall director, because sometimes it felt like I was the only one defending myself. And thankfully, you know, I had the opportunity to have a Black supervisor. So I was able to confide in him and talk to him about some things that were happening. But when I tell you, those white women, ooh, those white women were hell in higher ed. They were. And they were well meaning, very well meaning. And I don't want to dwell on them, but there were times when I had to defend myself to them, and it made me the bad guy, because how dare I? And I already said this last week. I'm not afraid to say how I feel. And because there are hierarchies in certain places, especially in higher ed, there's like, I think it operates as what is it, a bureaucracy, when you have the hall directors, and then you have your assistant director, and then your area or hall director, area coordinator, assistant director, director of res life, director of housing. You cannot go from, you know, say I had an issue as a hall director, I'm supposed to tell my area coordinator, better not go to the person above them, or better not go directly to the director. You need to talk to the person ahead of you. Where me, I'm like, no, I need to speak to the director. I need to speak to the person in charge. Like, that's very much how I am. But being a leader came with hardships in that area, because I knew that I had to be a voice for my students when they didn't have a voice. And I can specifically remember a time where I had a a senior RA in when I was a hall director. And my senior RA was busy, like most students at the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign. Shout out to y'all. That was my favorite university to work at. But she was a busy student, you know. She was in clubs, organizations, had a job, whatever. So she was involved in a lot of things. And they had to have a meeting with the director. And the director told them, like, you know, academics always comes first. But she wanted them at this meeting. So my student was on 2 different Zooms at the same time while she was also in this meeting. And because this was during COVID, you know, so everything was virtual. And after the meeting, the director emailed me and my student basically condemning her for doing something else while she was in that meeting. And I had to be the voice for my student because, I mean, she emailed back because she held her own. But I was like, well, did you ask her what else she was doing? What else was going on for her to have to be in 2 separate meetings at the same time? No, you didn't ask her. You just assumed that what you had to say was more important than what else she had going on. And it was like I had to do that all the time. And it's like, Misha, you signed up for this. You know, you signed up to advocate for your students and be the voice for your students, but you didn't expect that you supporting others would come with little to no support for yourself, for your needs, for your mental health. Their option was, oh, well, we have on-campus therapists. Man, I went and saw that on-campus therapist once. She was a white woman, never went back. Because I'm like, what am I talking to her for? Like, she can't even relate to what I'm saying, you know? And it comes to a point where the people who are higher up are so disconnected from the students, so disconnected from the people who are actually in the hall and working with these students. I remember one time I had a non-binary student and they had built so much community on their floor. And without even asking them, without even having a conversation, they were like, oh, this student's numbers are good as far as engagement on their floor. We're going to move them to the business floor. And they were like, wait, how are you just moving me in the middle of the semester? And I'm like, yeah, how are you just moving one of my RAs without even consulting me? Like someone who's in the building, someone who knows that this RA has built community. Why would you rip them away from their community because you want this RA on your business floor? What? And once again, having to advocate for that student, having to talk to higher up saying this isn't right, and having to prove to them why this isn't right, why the student built community, and why mostly putting them on this floor with majority white males was not going to be good for this RA. Come on now, be so serious. And you know, it's just those type of things. When you step up to be a servant leader, you have to put the people you're serving first, but also being mindful that you have to also nurture and take care of yourself, but you can't pour into yourself alone. So having those, you know, they'll say, oh, this is staff appreciation. I remember during COVID, our director thanked us by buying us all a pair of socks. Not a pack of socks, a pair of socks. One, two, left, right. A pair of socks. That was our thank you. And it was like, oh, wow. You know, wow. And eventually I had gotten another job and moved to another department. And in moving to another department, I was able to get more of a work-life balance, but still being able to live out as a servant leader. So when I moved to admissions, I was now working for a grad school program where we would interview grad students for online business programs. And that was honestly my favorite 9-to-5 full-time job I've ever had. And I'm not even gonna hold y'all. If they would have paid me more money, because I asked for more money and they said they didn't have it to give. So I said, okay, well, I don't got 40 hours to give. But if they could have gave me more money, I would have stayed, because my first day on the job, which I kind of think they set me up, but sometimes I need to be set up to be pushed further into, you know, out of my comfort zone and to know that I can do things. And I wasn't supposed to interview anybody yet, but someone had got sick or called off or whatever. They needed someone to step in and interview this potential student. So they're like, gave me his resume, and he was like in Hong Kong, Beijing. I don't know. He was in China. And they were like, okay, Misha, here's the script. These are the questions you ask him. And then you just go through, take notes as you interview him. And, that's it. And answer questions that he may have. And here's the document where you can draw your answers from. So this was my first day on the job, y'all. This is my first day. So we get on the Zoom, and this man is Chinese. And I've met Chinese people before, I'm not saying that, but for the first day on my job to be interviewing somebody who was all the way in China, like never been to America and probably won't come to America because the program is online. So it was that like crossing that barrier that separated us, being able to speak to someone in another country and finally seeing a job that I felt like it was meaningful. I felt like I was doing meaningful work because I was able to connect with people and talk to people who were sharing personal stories about why they wanted to get this degree, why they felt like furthering their education was going to get them this opportunity, and hearing who motivated them and their why. And I was like, I love this work. I love this work and I want to continue to do this work. But it also came with knowing that, hey, you may not doing this work is also like a sort of a sacrifice because you're living paycheck to paycheck. Because at this time I was living in an apartment and my rent, I had rent, I had gas, I had electricity. I said, whoa, this is what being an adult really is. Because, I left res life, so I had to pay my own bills. But even when doing that job, though, I still felt like I wasn't doing enough for people. Like when I say I want to help people, I really mean it. Like I want to help people. How can I help people heal? How can I help people see themselves? How can I help people grow, expand? And I still felt like I wasn't doing enough in that role. So, and it's funny I bring this up because yesterday I got a on this day reminder on TikTok. So on February 11th, 2022, I put in my 2 weeks notice, maybe. I don't know if that's when I did it or I just made this TikTok, but I made a TikTok, and first thing I noticed is my voice was much higher pitched in that video. And I'm thinking it has a lot to do with the code switching, because being a woman and having a deeper voice is just, it's not the thing for professional settings. Having a higher pitched voice, and I saw this on another video, makes you look more feminine. And that was me still living in that code of being a 9-to-5 working woman. And I was listening to the video and I talked about how, I put in my resignation for my full-time job, and one, they're not paying me enough. And 40 hours is a lot of time to give to someone when you don't feel like you're being compensated in the way you need to survive. So that was one reason why I resigned. And then it was also, although I enjoyed the job, I still feel like there's something missing as far as living in my purpose. And if I am going to do work, if I'm going to do the work, it needs to be directly in line with my purpose. And I know there's people that say, well, hobbies and your job is your job and this and that. But as a person who loves to work, that's been the conversation. I love to work. I love to work. I love to be busy. And as a person who loves to work, if I'm going to be working, why not do something that is directly in line with how I feel fulfilled? And when I resigned, I was like, that is my only goal. My only goal is to leave here and to come back with a job that truly makes me feel fulfilled. If I'm going to be working full time, it needs to be something where I feel like I'm directly living out in my purpose. And that video just came up yesterday. And on the 18th, it'll officially be 3 years since I've retired. Because I retired. I emptied out my retirement, y'all. And people are like, that's crazy, Misha, that's crazy. It's only crazy if you don't have faith. It's only crazy if you don't believe. Like, has that money come back? No. Will it come back? Yeah. It's going to come back, and it's going to come back 10-fold, 20-fold, 30-fold, 40-fold, 50-fold, 60-fold. It's going to come back. It's going to come back. So I'm not too worried about that because all of my needs are met. And all of my needs are met because I am one, I know they're coming. I don't know. Call it delusional, call it crazy, call it faith, but I know they're coming, and I know it's coming because I have finally stepped into my role as a servant leader. And that comes up with my yoga practice and sharing my yoga practice on YouTube. Do I think I'm this noble human being? Do I think I deserve a Nobel Peace Prize and award for teaching yoga for free on YouTube? No, I don't. But I believe that's what I'm being called to do. Like, I would be open to getting paid to teach, of course, but I know that I've been able to practice yoga in accessible ways. And I want to be able to do that for other people. I want to be able to offer that. And I know I'm not doing it because I know, like, as there's thing where it's like, oh, you're only doing it for attention, da 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 da. No, I'm doing it because I know I'm supposed to do it. I know I'm supposed to be using my gift in this way. I know that my body has healed through my yoga practice, through my meditation practice. Physical, the devil is a liar. I just got a little sharp pain. I just got a little sharp pain in my back. But physical healing. Physical healing. Side note, did y'all see that video from the Super Bowl where the lady had the Patrick Mahomes little voodoo doll, and she was jabbing it throughout the game? Yeah, crazy. But anyways, I know that I'm doing what I'm supposed to do as a servant leader. And there were a lot of hardships to me getting to even this point of having my yoga teacher certification. And we're not going to talk about that today because what I'm really trying to do is not give past situations any more of my energy, because I gave them a lot of my energy. I gave them a lot of my energy to the point where it almost killed me. Y'all know about the blood clots. And another disclaimer on that, when I said my tonsillectomy was the worst pain I ever experienced, I was wrong. It was the worst pain I ever experienced until I experienced my blood clots. And those blood clots, and I probably said this in the video about that, but bro, it felt like everything in me was just loose. It felt like my organs, my heart, everything was just ripping inside of me. It was very painful. It was very painful. So up until this point, that is the worst pain I ever experienced. It has topped my tonsillectomy recovery. The tonsillectomy itself didn't hurt. It didn't, honestly, the tonsillectomy didn't start hurting until about day 5, when we're not going to get into it. But there were a lot of hardships leading up to me getting my yoga teacher certification and being able to do this work. And I knew that this is what I was meant to do because there were so many obstacles, because there were so many people in my way. And when I mean in my way, it's like, you're in my way. You're either helping me or you're hindering me, and you are being a hindrance. Move. There were people in my way. And once I got those people out of my way, I was able to really step into doing this work. And I don't care if people think it's a facade or a show or whatever they think it is, because it's working. It's working for me. It's working for other people. It's helping me build a community on this platform. So, it's time to accept that there's truth to it, and there's truth in healing, and healing is possible. It's possible. But in order to do that healing and to do that work and to become a leader, I had to face my shadows. I had to face I'm not going to call them anger issues, but I had to face I guess I would say my dysregulation, because, people say, don't let people get you out of character. Don't let people get you out. And I'm like, what if cussing people out isn't my character? What if it isn't my character? And the only thing is, I just have to now learn how to regulate after I cuss you out. So I've had to face that, where it's like, because I'll tell somebody off in a heartbeat, and then I'll be mad and I'll carry that energy the rest of the day. But now it's like, oh, I'm going to tell you off, and then and then go about my day feeling, I wouldn't say proud, but feeling good that I got what I had to get off my chest and keep it moving. But I had to go through a lot of hardships to step into this role as the servant leader that I am, and being confident in my abilities to do this work, not caring what people had to say. Genuinely not caring what people have to say. You know, I talked about that last week about authenticity and standing in your truth. And it's just so important to know who you are, because if you don't know who you are, people will try to tell you who you are. And that makes me think about this person. And I tell these stories to serve more as warnings for people to be mindful of who you hang out with or who you're in community with, because people will try to paint you as something you are not, or people will try to tell you who you are, and to see if you accept it, if you believe it, and if you live in that. I was hanging around a person, and this person would always say to me, "Oh, Misha, you're just like me. We're just alike. I see myself in you." And I'm listening, but the only thing this person is showing me is that they're a liar, is that they have no motivation or drive, is that they gossip constantly. And I'm looking and I'm trying to figure out how we're just alike. And I didn't see it. And I'm like, okay, if this person is telling me we're just alike and all I'm seeing from them are these behaviors that I would never want to align with, I have to start healing now. I have to start healing now, because in 10 years, I will be just like this person. In 10 years, I will be in a loveless marriage. In 10 years, I will be lying and manipulating for affection. If I don't change now, in 10 years, yeah, whatever they see, I'm sure I'll see it too, because I've spent the last 10 years of my life wasted not believing in myself and not acting on my intentions. And it really pushed me into being who I am and facing those shadow sides of myself, because I said, I never want to end up like this person. I never want to end up like this person. Never, never, never. And without them knowing, they pushed me so much further into facing the things that I need to face in order to heal. And knowing that hardship is going to come when you're destined for greatness. I know I'll be getting on y'all nerves, but I don't know. I just truly believe in purpose. I do. I believe in purpose wholeheartedly. And I believe we all have a purpose. And I want to encourage us all to face the things that we need to face in order to step into that. And you don't have to be a servant leader. You know, you don't have to be any of these things, but it's knowing that there's potential there for you to do great things. And you weren't put on this earth for nothing. You know, you're not wasted space, you're not wasted talent. You're just probably around the wrong people. You're not around people who are encouraging you and seeing who you are. And it's not always going to be easy. And there's this perception that because things look good from the outside for some people, they're easy. I know people think I have an easy life, and that's fine. And then I have to remind people, I have a dead dad, y'all. I have a dead dad who did everything for me. He paid all my bills. You know, I was taken care of, well taken care of. And I was raised in a way to think, okay, well, when my dad isn't taking care of me anymore, he's just going to pass me off to my husband. I don't got no husband. You know, quite frankly, I don't want no man to take care of me. I don't. Well, I wouldn't mind it. But it's not what I'm looking for. It's not what I'm seeking. You know, I'm just vibing. It's a vibe. But I don't know. I think I might have got off topic a little bit. But in the end, what did he say? Let me pull the notes back up. You got to know how to nourish. Oh, no, that's not it. I don't know where it is, but leadership comes with hardship. And the hardships, I'm not one of those people who believes God's testing you, God's putting you through a test to make you stronger. I'm not one of those people who believes that. I believe that life is generally hard. I do believe that. I do believe that life is just generally hard. I don't blame the hardships on God. But I do think that seeking God and trusting in God's word can help you through these hardships with more ease. And this message is not for everybody, because most people do not believe, and I'm not here to force people to believe either. I'm just simply sharing my experience because that's the only thing I know. I've only ever been me, so I only ever know what I've been through. And throughout the hardships of me getting to a point where I feel like I can lead myself and lead others, the only thing that has gotten me through outside of myself, outside of my community in this physical realm, is my relationship with a higher power. And yeah, it's not, God's not putting you through this hard test. Life is hard. Life is hard. But with faith and with God and with knowing and with understanding comes ease, allowing you to move through it and to, fully live in what you're supposed to do. So, yeah, I think that's it for today. I don't really have much else to say, but I'm kind of digging this little video, and of course, I'll probably edit it so it's not just all choppy and me just rambling, and switching from subject to subject. But yeah, I think I don't know. If I do videos, I got to keep my hair cut. You see that. My muscle on this side is a little better. But we gotta get back in the field. Farming season started. I started my seedlings, and that's on we'll talk about that a different day. But yeah, with leadership comes hardship, y'all. And don't let those hardships deter you from still moving forward. What's a little hardship to you? You a boss, ain't you? You independent, ain't you? So what's a little hardship? That's what I thought. Nothing. But that's it, y'all. Thanks for tuning in. This is a Pieces of Meesh podcast. I'm Misha. And, if you felt this message resonated with you, feel free to leave a comment, like, subscribe, share, and let's continue to chat, build community, and, just spread love, spread healing, spread joy. And yeah, that's it. So thanks for joining me today, and I'll catch you all next week. Bye.